Alright, the first part of this particular series was silent except for the lawnmower noises and stuff. So I'm going to narrate this particular video because I've already got a video where I'm working Ocala or Ocala Chert with no voiceover or no voice. So I'm just going to make sure I voice over this one. Now at this stage I'm at the point where I don't need to go much thinner, so I'm just going to pressure flake the edges, maybe try to get rid of some lumps and some thick areas on the edge and on the base. Prior to notching, I am going to notch this, so I'm just regularizing the edge right here. Yeah, from the last pass I didn't clean up the deltas or the little protrusions sticking out. Now you can leave those in if you want it serrated, but I'm not going to put serrations on this one. They're just going to be a little bit jaggedy on the edge. I suppose you could call those serrations, but they're not intentional. I'm just trying to make the edge straight and remove thick areas and make it sharp. So not much to explain here. You can see pretty good with the zoom in. It's mostly downward pressure. I'm not trying to thin unless I see a lump, and I'll try to point that out as I'm narrating. I'll try to point out where a thick spot is or where I'm trying to thin out a thick spot. As you can see, it's already pretty much there. I'm using copper for my pressure flaking tool, but steel is actually a little bit better since it doesn't become as dull as quickly. It's more consistent. I think what I'm doing here is I'm preparing for a couple of indirect percussion strikes or some heavy pressure. Yeah, indirect percussion. I think the diameter on this particular flaker is, I don't know, 5/16. It's not 3/8 like the other one. And that was a good strike there. That whitish area is not all that great as far as knappability, so that was a lucky thinning flake. It didn't go all the way across the center, but it did get to the center, so I consider that a thinning flake. I'm using my new pad that I made last week. It's just a simple domed pad, oval shaped. It's probably actually a little bit too wide, but I want it to be versatile. I can use this pad with these small delicate points or with a larger point. And I don't have to worry about switching it around. With the kidney shaped pad, I had that indentation on one side, and I always kept it toward my hand instead of facing outward as much as I could. Because sometimes I get distracted by that indentation on the side. That kidney shaped pad wasn't all that great as far as expediency. This one, it doesn't matter which method or which side I use, so it saves time. Now this is where I get into trouble. Yeah, that first flake usually gives me trouble because it'll cause a step fracture. And then trying to eliminate that step fracture is what causes most of my tip breaks. But in this case, I think I'm just going to leave most of it in. Well, I managed to remove that, so that's good. But if it didn't work with that pass, I would have just left that little step, that little tiny step fracture in the tip, rather than risk breaking the tip off. I'm not sure, but I think I resharpened this copper tip before I started this particular video, which is a good idea. Now, I don't know about how good of an idea it is to work the tip first before the notches. It works either way as long as you're careful. But a lot of times when the tip gets very delicate, I'll snap it off just by maneuvering it around, not because I'm working on the base and the tip snaps off because of shock to the base, but because I'm just maneuvering the point around and I'll accidentally hit it on something. So now I'm just putting in some flakes to thin out the edge and to make it look a little bit better as far as being flaked. This is the side that has the original flake scar. It's better if you send flakes across so you don't see the original flake scar. Better in terms of looks, but a lot of artifacts have the original flake scar on one side, or a unifacial look to it. It's not a bad thing. It just it's not a cosmetically appealing thing. Anyway, yeah, I think that was a thick spot. Very light pressure. It's easy to do this kind of thing on the heat treat. On raw stuff, sometimes your flaker will get worn down a lot and you're ending up trying to do delicate work with a rounded tip, and it's very difficult. You need to keep the tip sharp if it's raw. If the material's raw, it'll wear down your tip, so you got to keep it sharp. With heat treat, it's much easier, both in terms of actually being able to remove a flake and also the less wear on your tool. Now, what you're not seeing is there's sometimes difference in the pressure that I put on the edge. Sometimes it's almost straight down, and sometimes it's inward, almost straight inward, depending on how strong the platform is. If it's a really strong platform and I think I can send in a flake, I'll push inward. But if it's just a regular sharp unabraded edge, I have to press downward, because pressing inward will crush the edge. So now I'm going to prepare for the notching. I'm just going to make both sides symmetrical. I think this one already had a little ding in it, so I took that one off first. Took off that corner first. And now I'm doing the other corner. Yeah, it's still a little bit thick. I'm looking at the thickness of the base. I'm thinking I'm gonna try to thin it out a little bit more with some pressure flakes, maybe. It already looks pretty good. I don't know. I think I remember, I wasn't quite sure exactly what I was going to do at this point. Sometimes when I can't decide what to do, I'll just work on a different area and then come back to it. I'm going to come back to the base here in a minute. And it took me forever to learn how to do these close-ups so that I don't wander out of the frame too much. I do watch these videos myself sometimes to see what I did, but not as much as I used to. See, these are pushed down and slightly inward. Not exactly straight down. When I go exactly straight down, it's mostly for shaping or removing the protrusions or removing the deltas. That's straight down. Unless I want to hit a lump and take it out. So this is a steel nail notcher Ishi stick, so I can get extra leverage on it. I don't really need the extra leverage for this particular point or this material, but it's easier for me if I just have one tool for everything. I do have a larger spatula tool, but that's it. The larger spatula tool, yeah, I do use it for notching on the bigger points, and this one is mostly on the smaller points, although I was using this one on a larger point sometime this week. Sometimes you got to get a surface on the flaker that's more narrow in order to punch out a good notch flake. Now this one is getting tough because I'm coming up against a thick spot, and this is where I blow out part of the ear on the stem. Yeah, which in the end of the video you'll see that that's what makes this asymmetrical. I was not able to recover from that particular blowout of the ear, so it just became shorter. Sometimes I can recover by just eliminating material from the other side and try to work on the symmetry, but on this one I just left it. You'll see. So I'm pushing down, almost straight down, a little bit inward. I'm using the kind of the corner of the spatula, but the front of the spatula also makes contact with the edge as it goes down. You can kind of hear it crunching down, I think. When I'm narrating this, I cannot hear the audio, so I don't know if it's crunching or snapping cleanly. I think it is probably crunching a little bit. But if I can get a clean snap, that's the best. A little bit of crunching is okay because it'll deepen the notch a little bit after the initial snap of the flake that came off. The thinner the point is at this stage, the easier it is to notch. I think everybody knows that. But if you have a heat treat, it doesn't matter too much. Or if you're using obsidian, it doesn't matter too much. And you can always usually pop out a flake with material that's heated or a glass-like material. It's really thick right there, but I'm still able to pop out a flake. If this material was raw, that would be extremely dicey. It might even break the body of the point up higher, and not necessarily across the neck. It might break a little higher because you're putting a lot of bending force. But with a domed pad, it helps to reduce those bending forces, so you're not bridging it. You just, all the pressure goes right where it's contacting the pad. So those were nice pop outs. That's what I like to see. I like to end with those too. I don't like to see a crushed foot on the notch or a crushed bottom of the notch. I like to see a nice pop out. A lot of the artifacts have nice pop outs at the bottom. This one is not bad. This one is on the artifact, of course, but the pop outs are not bad on this one. I do want to go a little deeper with the notches, I think. I think that's what I'm doing here. Getting ready to do one more flake. If I think I need to. Yeah. I think I might do one more. Got lucky. But not that lucky. There's a little bit of mess inside that notch. The pop out wasn't all that clean. Lucky in the sense that I didn't snap the base off completely. You know, the more narrow the neck gets, the easier it is to snap off that whole base. Yeah, this coral naps really nice. Really nicely. So now it's just a matter of making it look nicer. This is dicey, taking those finishing flakes from the base at this stage, but I think it's thick enough that I don't have to worry about snapping this stem off. That was a little flake that popped out there. That was not from this particular area. That was from earlier. One of the earlier flake removals. Yeah, there you go. So this is the short ear. Yeah. And this is the long ear. I'm going to take a little bit off the longer ear just to make it look a little bit more symmetrical. I think I'll do that in a minute. But I don't want to take off too much. A lot of these artifacts of this particular type are not symmetrical, so I'm not that worried about it. You could tell they made these quickly in some cases. Or in many cases, I would say that you could tell they made the Scallorns quickly. You know, very few flakes, not too much touching up going on unless there's serrations. But I think most of the Scallorns were not serrated. So you can make a bunch of them pretty fast. Okay, so this part of the operation, I'm just kind of straightening the edge and sharpening it. Sometimes it's very hard to sharpen these delicate materials because they'll crush at the very last stage. You're trying to do little bitty flakes and you end up crushing the edge. You just have to be very careful about choosing where you push the flakes off. If it looks really delicate, you got to scratch a little bit first before you pop the flake off. Scratch off that really delicate edge and then pop the flake off and it will become sharp again. And it will be straightened out or whatever you're trying to do. Like here I'm trying to straighten out a little bit. On Scallorns, I don't think they were ground anywhere. If it were me making these, I would, you know, grind the base on all of these points. But a lot of them were very, very sharp. On the artifacts, you know, you see how sharp it is, and it's amazing that a lot of times the edge along the base is very, very sharp as well. Not only the edge, but everywhere. The inside notches were sharp. If it were me, I'd grind the inside of the notch and grind the base. But it wasn't done on these small points. On the larger ones, a fair amount of at ladle dart points, the bases and the notches were ground. So it was done. Alright, so at this point I'm just messing with it. Probably shouldn't. It's good enough. I ended up messing with this one off camera too, to make the point pointier, to make it more of a needle point. Maybe I'll show that, maybe I won't. This one's not going to be in the auction. This is a side project, so I might show the final result, but probably not. I got a lot to do today. It took time to get around to narrating this one because I was uploading other previous videos, and when I'm uploading I have to be on airplane mode. And let's see, I have to be on airplane mode when I'm uploading. No, I can't be on, that's it, I cannot be on airplane mode when I'm uploading. That's the issue. But I have to be on airplane mode when I'm recording voice. Right? I cannot be recording voice and uploading at the same time. So I had to wait for the other previous episode of this to upload before I could narrate the next one. And it takes forever to upload. We'll see. I got my computer back in Texas. I'll probably go get it this time when I go back down. I said I'm going for my mom's birthday, but I'm also going for the Knapping. You know, these things slip my mind. I can't remember everything. Yeah, I'm going to the Knapping in Brady, Texas, when I go down. It happens to be at the same time as my mom's birthday. Okay, so I'm looking it over. I'm thinking there's probably one or two spots where I could take a flake to make it thinner, but nah, it's good enough. Yeah, that's it. Pretty much it. Just maybe time for a thumbnail picture, and that's it.